y'all, it is Hope at Crafty Hope, and I am actually working on some jewelry today for a change. Actually, I work on jewelry a lot more than I show on these videos because not a lot of it changes, so, and there's not a whole lot to show you. Anyway, I am working on the SJ Designs Jewelry Blog's Honey-Do List Challenge. I'll put a link down in the description box. We'll actually even see if this video gets uploaded in time for the challenge reveal because I can't upload from my house and I have to go out to do that, and with the whole social isolation, not sure I can make it to the coffee shop to do the uploading. So we'll see. We'll see how things go. I may sit outside in the parking lot with my to-go order and see if I can do it. But let me tell you what I've got going on in my head. The inspiration photo this month for March is a picture of a door that Sarah Jo's husband, Eric, captured in, oh, I can't remember where it is, but it's a beautiful red ornate door. And it's got all these little fiddly filigree things on them. I'm going to put a picture of it here. That door, immediately I knew I wanted to emboss some metal and put some filigree on it. And so that's where I'm going with this. I have picked out a few filigree pieces that I want to stack. I think I'll probably, these two larger, keep the colors they are, but this one I want to color and make it a little more, I don't know, aged brass, bronzy, something like that. So there's gonna be a lot of work put into those, and they will end up getting riveted to some tin. Now I wanted a backer for these to have that red from the door, and I tried out a couple pieces you see of just paper that's sitting on my desk to see what size I wanted, and I decided, or what shape, and I decided squares were good. And I have this stencil that I used my Silhouette Cameo to make. It's just one that I have for other things. And I'm going to use this stencil to, I don't know why I have two pieces out, to, excuse me, to stencil a shape. I'm going to go ahead and do two of these. I'll probably speed this up. I'm just using a ultra fine point Sharpie marker to do the tracing. Alright, so I have those on there. I don't know if you can see them or not. There's me. Okay, so I'm going to use my tin snips, and I do have my gloves. As far as safety glasses, I have my reading glasses on, so we're going to count those as safety glasses today. And I'm just going to cut these two squares out. Now that I have those two cut, I am going to, because these are square, they have pointy edges. Or pointy corners, and I don't like pointy corners, so I am just going to take my tin snips and snip off those corners just a little bit. Alright, now that those have been cut and the corners trimmed, I have my bowl of sanding supplies, and I am just going to go straight for my fine grit sanding block. And I think I'm actually going to do this without the gloves because, well, those are so big. So I'm using the rougher surface on this fine grit one, not the finest, which is probably also about the same grit as the, no, it's actually a little bit, yeah. Alright, anyway, it's the coarsest grit on the fine grit one. And I'm just going around all my edges and those corners. Okay, so I am actually going to, while I have a moment, well, while I have it out, I'm going to go ahead and sand the front and back of this because I'm pretty sure I'm going to want to distress it. So I want to get kind of that top layer of, I don't even know if it's an enamel or a sealer or whatever it is, but it keeps it from tarnishing, and I want it to tarnish. So I'm just going to sand that. So I'll put this off to the side. And what I'm going to do next, I may do off camera. All I'm using are some embossing folders. And I've got just a crank embossing machine that I'm going to run this through. I'm really actually trying to decide which of the textures I want. I've got this one that's got the diamonds on it, like the pattern in the picture, but it's a little small for my squares. But I also have this one, which isn't exactly the same diamond pattern, but has that same kind of feel to it. So it's probably what I'm going to use, just because it's, yeah, it's big enough. Hey, we're back. All right, so I got these two, and that's why I did two, is because my second one is a little bit more symmetric than that first one, and that's what I want. So I'm going with that one. We'll put that one aside for some other project. And now we're gonna get to painting. So I've pulled out my distress oxides, my vintage patinas, which are also in here with some of my alcohol inks. But I'm going to grab the garnet, and the garnet's a little bit, I think, brighter red than I really want, so I may add maybe a drop or two of, what is it, onyx, maybe? The black, it's onyx. So I'm going to have these two, and I'm working on my nonstick craft sheet now. And then for this one, I'm trying to decide, since I want to darken that up, I think I'm going to use the aged bronze to give that the darkening that I want. So I'm going to put those back in my little containers and put them up for just a minute. Get them out of my way. All right, so we're going to start with the garnet. And of course, it's going to be clogged up, so I'm just using a straight pen here and to unclog that. That's all that's going on there. I had to do it a couple times to make sure I got it, but I got it. I'm going to add a single drop of that onyx there off to the side. I didn't put it within the garnet, and I just pulled a little bit over into the garnet to get that little bit of darker red that I wanted. And even that tiny bit of the onyx made it too dark, so I added another drop of the garnet. And then I'm just using a flat paintbrush to paint that straight onto the tin. And I held it in my hand to try to keep it from getting on my craft mat, so I didn't get too much on the back of it. And then I've got the aged bronze there, and I'm just putting a drop there and painting it straight onto that little filigree piece. And that's it. Once that was dry, I used some more of the onyx, just a tiny little drop, and the matte sealer and patina extender from Vintage, and kind of mixed that together. And even though I mixed it, it still was a bit dark, so I added some more of that sealer off to the side and just used that little bit that was on my paintbrush to mix in, because I just kind of wanted a bit of a glaze over the top of this little piece to darken it up. I know what the next thing I want to do is sand all of that before I decide about texturing. So I'm pulling my paper out real quick, and I am going to pull out that fine grit block again and just sand off a little bit of this. And this one I'm going to sand because I want to maybe patina it a little. So I'm not going to sand it a whole lot. And now there's this one. So I think for this one, because I just want to do it in little batches, I'm going to use, there is a Vintage standing block that works much better, but this is a nail file from the dollar store that I'm going to use, and hope it doesn't gum it all up. So I am just trying to take off the raised edges of the paint on here. So, alright, this is Novocaine Black. I've had it for ages, and that's why you can no longer see the label on it, but I know what it is. If you wear gloves with this, I am I am, I don't know, not as careful as I should be with it. So I just have some brand name Q-tips, but ear swabs, And I'm just going to go over. Now I need to seal that vintage patina on the front of the pendant. So I'm just using the matte patina sealer and extender again, and another flat brush, and just wiping that on there. That's all there is to it. Alright, so everything is just about dry. I did seal the back of this with some Renaissance wax because that is where we had the tarnish back there. Now I get to decide where I'm punching the holes. The first thing I'm going to do is lay out all my pieces on the main altered tin piece. I'm trying to decide the direction that I want to put all of these little pieces in. And I'm going to go ahead and admit to you now that I did punch off camera a hole in that largest piece of filigree. It didn't have a hole in it, but I just punched a hole in the center. No big deal. And so you see me fiddling with this for a little while, making sure it's exactly what I wanted. And so then I'm going to take that largest piece there and align it back on there. And I'm sorry, I zoomed in so y'all could see better, and then I went straight out of frame. So I apologize for that. I didn't realize it. I was so intent on what I was doing. But all I'm doing here is I've got my Sharpie again, and I'm marking where that center hole in that filigree is. And it didn't mark the first time. I couldn't see anything. So I'm going to align everything and do it again here, and try to see if I can get at least where I can see that hole. I don't think it shows up on camera, but I was able to at least scratch the surface a little, and see there I realized I had zoomed in and was off camera, so sorry. I did scratch the surface with the Sharpie so I could tell kind of where that hole was, or where that hole needed to be. And I've got a power punch there. It's a 1.5 millimeter punch that I'm using to punch that hole. That doesn't come with the power punch. I had to order that separately on the advice of Tammy of TTE Designs, but it's great. And I punched the hole in the top. So there are my two holes here and there. This one I'm not, let's see, first thing I'm going to do is let me pull out this stuff. I'm using, I got a small bench block. And I just got it on an old icky towel and a piece of wood just to kind of help absorb some of the sound and stuff. But once I punch a hole like that, I like to just flatten that out a little bit to make sure there's no like burrs there, especially right. Oh, that's much better. Okay. So I have a rivet. I believe this is a 1.5 millimeter rivet. This is from Vintage. I'm not sure if you can get these anymore. I know I got it at Hobby Lobby. You may be able to get it on the Vintage website. So what I'm going to do is begin stacking. Lined up how I want it. Like I said, it's probably going to end up moving all over the place. And I'm going to use if I can find it, I've got a nice big pair of pliers. So we're going to just go with that. Alright, so I'm going to put the the wire cutters here and come up a scoosh. I don't even know how to tell you how much a scoosh is. It's something you feel in your gut. Alright, and let's see if we came up a scoosh enough. Alright, yeah, if I hold everything down, we'll see. So then I'm just going to hammer it. Now, I'm using nail head rivets, which means that one end has like a flat side on it, and that's what's on the back. And then you clip the top, and now you hammer down on it to make a flat surface on the other side. So it's kind of sandwiched by these two nail heads. So that's all I'm trying to do. You'll see here in a minute that I was not completely successful with this. That's why this video is a bit longer than I expected. But what you do here is you just hammer that flat and try to hammer in several directions so that other trim side spreads out. All right, so that is my piece, my pendant that I am using for the SJ Design Jewelry Honey-Do List Challenge from y'all. The best made plans are not always the best made final products. I've had some pictures of how beautiful this was. Here's one. But as soon as I got it done and was taking it down the hall to show my husband, these top 2 layers popped off. So the rivet was not good. It's good enough that this bottom layer has stuck beautifully. I cannot get it off. So we're going to work on this a little bit more because I like this so much and it goes with the challenge so well that I really want to make it work. So we're going to, in the words of Tim Gunn, make it work. So I'm starting by going ahead and I had trimmed down the rivet that was there and I am hammering that flat to make sure there's a nice flat surface there for my next steps. And what that is I'm taking those other 2 layers. I had a hard time deciding if I was going to rivet those. Well, I knew I was going to rivet them, but I didn't know if I was just going to rivet them together and then glue that down, or if I wanted to punch more holes in the whole piece and rivet all of it together, and that's what I ended up deciding to do in the end. So to center it, I decided I was going to punch 2 more holes on either side of the initial hole, or 1 hole on each side of the what the initial hole had been, and there's where I'm coming to make that decision. Is that how I want to glue it down like that, rivet it together, or if I'm going to go ahead and punch holes in the other backer piece that I had. And so that's what I'm going to do. So I've got a metallic marker there because I thought that might show up a little bit better about where the holes needed to be. So I'm trying to mark that. That also leaves less of a mark on that top piece as well. So I had a little trouble getting those marked. But once I do, I'm going to go ahead and just take my power punch again and punch holes. Now the first one I didn't have much of a problem with at all, but the second one I couldn't see where I had marked it. So initially I punched way too close to that center, that first punched hole, and I had to do it again. So it was a bit of a trial, but it's all covered up. You'll never see where that extra hole is because the back of that rivet doesn't show. Now you see me punching here again. That wasn't a clean hole the first time on that anyway, on one of them. So I just cleaned it up by punching it again. No big deal. And then I am stacking these. So, and then I'm going to try to move them over to my bench block here. And yeah, it all kind of dumped over. So y'all, this was just that's what everything is, I think, is a learning process. And that's what this was. You can turn, you can always fix a mistake. Just find some other way to go about it. So I trimmed down those 2 rivets. And then I'm doing a much better job at riveting them. I think my initial problem was I trimmed that other one too short. So I didn't trim these too short. So, and that riveted much better. And I'm going to give you a couple looks at it in the final product. And you see me testing this to make sure it's good and solid. So here's going to be some pictures of it. And then I'm going to show you pictures of the finished product. If y'all like this, give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you have any questions and make sure to subscribe, y'all. Thanks for watching. Bye.